I'm sorry, some of our colleagues are having their lunch, but to keep in time, we are going to start now. Now, we have changed the format, and we are in the process of changing the format of live cases to more of live inbox cases, because I feel and most of us feel that it is much better because we can edit unnecessary, the wastage of time and unnecessary procedures and steps, and also we can add in a lot of steps which are important for learning for beginners, and there could be a lot of time left for discussion. So this is a case which we did for the India Life just 2-3 months back, and this is a case of a total Takayashu arthritis, total occlusion of the right subclavian artery, right carotid artery, and very tight stenosis of the left common carotid artery in a boy who was 18 or 19 years old. And we see a lot of these patients, and really there is no surgical option. So I'm just going to present this. If there are any questions, either I can take in between, I can pause it, or you can ask after the film is over. And this will also have a promo for Asia Pacific Vascular Society to give you another 2-3 minutes for our colleagues to come and join us. You can actually have the lights down.
Eminent chairpersons out here, Dr. Samir Dani, Dr. George Joseph, and Dr. Matthias from Leipzig.
Right.
And on the panel we have Dr. Girish, Dr. Gurpreet Gulati, and Dr. Rahul Jindal.
Good. Now this is a patient of a Takayashu arthritis. He is a young male who is 28 years old, and he's got a occlusion of the right subclavian artery, the right common carotid artery, and tight stenosis of the left common carotid artery. He presented with recurrent dizziness, episodes of dizziness and blackouts, and also very significant claudication in the right upper limb. So at that stage in an emergency, when he came to us earlier, what we did was we tackled the subclavian artery, and we also tackled the right common carotid artery. We opened the total occlusions, which I'm going to show you, put him on a heavy immunosuppression, and now we have called him to open this left common carotid artery, which you see on the screen. So I'm going to run you through angiograms and the procedure which we did earlier. Can I have the first slide, please? The first picture of the angiogram. Okay, so this is the coronary angiogram. which is, can you see it on the screen? Okay, so the coronary angiogram is normal. Just hold it here. So this is the angiogram of the right innominate artery. You don't see anything beyond the first part of the subclavian artery, and you don't see anything in the common carotid artery after the ostium. Next, please. So what we do, we manage the subclavian artery first. We took an Aquatrack wire, and on the Aquatrack wire, we tried to get it with a 3 French Terumo catheter. And we did not know whether we went subintimally or we went through the lumen. But to be sure, we passed in the catheter. Next, please. Once we were sure that we are in the true lumen, we wired the vessel again. Next, please. We withdrew this catheter, we changed the wire, and now we have a track. We do not know it's subintimal or intraluminal, but we had a track and we wanted to now dilate this subclavian occlusion. Now we got, this is a DSA picture of the same. Next please. Next. So this is a balloon from Invatec. This is a 120 millimeter balloon into 4 millimeter. This is an Amphiron balloon, and you see how tight is the stenosis. We had to really go up to pressure up to 12 to 14 atmosphere. So what we did, once we dilated it, what we saw, because it opened with a lot of pressure, there was pain. There was a sort of a perforation, and this perforation was sealed. If you see this, there is a leak, and there is a AV fistula which actually drains into the subclavian vein. So we took a balloon again and dilated it and tried to tack it for another 3 to 4 minutes. But the AV fistula did not close, so we had to put a covered stent there.
Why will the AV fistula be made here with the balloon?
I do not know. It was not a balloon. I think there was a perforation because of arthritis. These are panarthritis, and they involve the artery as well as vein, if you see the new literature. I do not know. I think it was a small perforation, but it was leaking into the subclavian vein or into some vein. So then we thought we'll put in an atrium stent. This is a 6 millimeter atrium stent. Next, please. But while we were trying to...
Kind of AV fistulas very often. We see this very often in the femoral level that we have AV fistulas after PGA. I'm not completely sure if there really is a need. That's why for putting in a covered stent. But on the other hand, maybe for the Takayasu treatment, you will end up in better results with covered stent. May you have not these frequent reinterventions. Do you have an idea for this, how it works?
I do not know, because I wasn't sure how is fistula going to behave. It did not tack up with the balloon. So we thought, let's put a covered stent. What it's going to do with the high ESR, maybe it will prevent the neointimal proliferation, and it will seal the fistula also. But what was more interesting is when we tried to put this covered stent, next please, we were using an arrow sheath at this point of time. The covered stent, the atrium stent could not be crossed across into the sheath. Just hold on. And we really had a hard time getting this atrium stent out, and we had to pull the whole, push the whole assembly beyond the occlusion into the sort of axillary artery, and then pull it back and pull back the sheath. And later on, when we saw the IFUs of the atrium stent, we see that the arrow sheath is one of the contraindications. This stent should not be used in an arrow sheath because somehow it gets caught into the internal braiding of the arrow sheath. Now, this is the final result which we got on this subclavian on the right side. Next, now go to next one. Then we attempted the common carotid on the right side. This is the final angiogram. Next. Now this is the stump of the common carotid on the right side. So we went, this time we went with the shuttle sheath from Cook's. Next. And this is an angiogram, the DSA picture. We had a road map, and on the road map we crossed the lesion with the 014 wire. Next, please.
Just a question. A common carotid occlusion is actually a contraindication for a carotid stent for atherosclerosis. So why do we go ahead and do it in this kind of a patient?
Because this patient is very symptomatic. This patient had recurrent attacks of dizziness. His 3 arch vessels were occluded, and this patient we had to we had to intervene to revascularize his cerebral circulation. Now we had no other
But
choice.
you had a left carotid stenosis which you were going to open anyway.
The left carotid stenosis, if you see on an angiogram which I am going to do today, is 90%. And he had a severe claudication on the right side. So
You were using a protection device, embolic protection like a filter system. If you are in with a 14-inch wire, maybe it would be a good idea or not?
no, because in Takayasu arthritis, these are not atherosclerotic lesions. The risk of embolism is actually very low. And we never actually use distal or proximal protection devices in this sort of situation. Now we have a very good experienced panel. I mean, I would like to know their opinion if they want to use a protection device in these sort of patients.
Dr. Khanna, we've been doing a lot of carotid occlusions, common carotid occlusions in Takayasu, maybe more than 100 now. And what we find is in these, when you do the arch angiogram, you will see reformation of the carotid bifurcation through collaterals.
Correct.
And you will see flow from the external to the internal carotid and up into the brain.
Correct.
So you know that the distal circulation is patent and flowing. And through the occlusion, very often when you wedge a catheter and take a shot, you'll see tiny channels through this occlusion that lead to the distal vessel. And we then just get through with a hydrophilic wire balloon and most often stent. And we've had very, very low incidence of thromboembolism in this. Sometimes we have very rarely we've had 1 or 2 TIAs, but apart from that, for a primary recanalization, we've never had a problem.
Yeah, that is my experience also. I mean, the success rate with carotid occlusions is much higher than that of subclavian occlusions. Even the subclavians actually do quite well. Okay, can I go to the next one, please? Next film, next loop. Okay, so on a road map, go minus, I think you jumped. So what we did, we we dilated the lesion with a 5 millimeter into 120 millimeter balloon from Invatec, which is an Amphiron balloon. Now this balloon is very good. It is very low profile. It's hydrophilic. It's used more for below knee, but even for carotid and subclavian occlusion, it works very well. I did not purposely wanted to put a stent in this vessel because his acute phase reactants were high. He was in active disease, and we just wanted to balloon it and see how it goes. Now it's been over 3 weeks now. I mean, his ESR is now down to normal. His carotids are fine. There's no carotid tenderness. And go next. Next. This was the result which we had achieved, and we left it at this stage. Go next. And if you see this angiogram carefully, it is what I think somebody in the panel was commenting. Can you show that angiogram? There is a flow into the external carotid, and it looks like a negative flow. That's why it's not filling very well. The internal carotid fills very well. Normally, the disease does not involve the internal carotid. It is sort of localized up to the common carotid or the bifurcation. And there is a good flow from the external into the internal. So this is...
The good thing to note is that ICA diameter is bigger than the CCA.
Right, because I haven't dilated the CCA to the full level. I mean, I think it's better to just leave it at a suboptimal stage. We do not want a cosmetic result. Otherwise, we'll end up putting in a stent.
Patient have pain during the PGA?
The patient had pain only when we were dilating that subclavian and when there was a small rupture. Apart from that, there was no pain. Now, if we can come on to the monitor, I'll show you what we are doing today. Today we have done an angiogram of the right innominate artery, and it shows a very good patency of the right subclavian stent and also the right subclavian artery. And it also shows a very good result of the right common carotid artery. And what is very interesting is the proximal part and the ostium of the right common carotid artery is actually showing much better result than what we left with. And this is very interesting. Many a times, like we discussed in the previous case, the results become better over a period of time in a case of Takayasu arthritis. It's very interesting phenomenon. What we are going to do today is the angioplasty of the left common carotid artery, which shows a very tight string-like lesion from the ostium of the left common carotid artery to its bifurcation. Okay, main carotid. So this is, we have gone today with the arrow sheath, and this is the angiogram which we are doing today. Now this is the left common carotid artery. You see there is a stump and there is a long stenosis. And then there is a filling through collaterals of the left common carotid bulb, and probably from the external into the internal. Now we are going to, now what we have done is we have taken a 7 French arrow sheath. We have got a 4 French RCA diagnostic catheter to engage this common carotid ostium. Now we are going to wire this under road map and then dilate it, and if required, stent this artery. Sort of intervene if we can avoid when the ESR is high. In this patient, we had acute phase reactions which were very high, but we had to intervene because the patient was having recurrent TIAs. But otherwise, we tend to cool down the patient and then do these interventions. Thank you.